January was a big start to 2024. In the span of a month, we've already gotten some pretty big extremes. From seeing massive indie success stories to big AAA game studio flops. And this year really is just getting started. I'm Pynn, this is Critical Hit, and today we're bringing you 5 big gaming stories to make you excited for February. Starting off with some rumors, we have some credible outlets at this point saying that Microsoft is thinking of releasing all of their Xbox exclusive games from Starfield forward to the PlayStation, in addition to possibly other consoles. With development costs skyrocketing for studios, it's actually believed they do not have the luxury of leaving all that money on the table, so to speak, of course, by not bringing their games to other platforms. We have also heard some discussion for this from Sony, but the sources are nowhere near as reliable yet. It is incredible to me that Microsoft spent so much money acquiring studios like Activision Blizzard and Bethesda, which everyone thought was to have exclusivity to their systems, including, of course, antitrust parts of government, which fought against those acquisitions for a very long time. But with studios closing after just one release, or just one flop these days, I guess it does make some sense. So it looks like Starfield, Gears of War, and even the new Indiana Jones game may be coming to other platforms. This seems to be a bigger problem with Western studios, and I cannot help but think overblown ESG quotas and hiring firms like Sweet Baby Inc. hurts the development more than it helps it, even before we get those sales figures. There is a lot to say about the development process, and I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert, but it's pretty clear we're seeing Western developers become their own worst enemies on occasion. But we have lots of other videos about this topic if you're interested. Moving on next to Palworld is a game we have played so much of. I'm actually hesitant to tell you how many hours between S and I we spent in this gaming world. But of course, Palworld has taken the gaming world by storm. So far they reported 19 million in sales, with 12 million of those being on Steam and 7 million on Xbox. The developers put out a tweet saying they want to ensure that the game always remains online, no matter the cost, and right now they're paying a whopping $478,000 a month to sustain their servers. Now, we had a private server that was through Nitrado that was not quite as reliable, but it really goes to show you how much it can cost to sustain an online game nowadays. The CEO at this point has even jokingly talked about them going bankrupt. But as a separate story, Palworld has spent around $1 billion or 6.7 million US so far on its development, whereas Rocksteady Studios spent about $200 million on their game Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. Regardless of other arguments of quality, currently Suicide Squad only has an average player count right now of 10,000 on Steam, whereas Palworld stats put it around 1 million. Again, that's average, not peak player count. I know it's hard to compare titles like this directly, but both are meant to be played online multiplayer, and one of them certainly seems to be no longer in touch with its audience based on the numbers. I hate to see Rocksteady fail, but I hope this is a wake-up call for developers to start giving customers what they want. And for one last piece of context before we go or move on to another subject, Marvel's The Avengers first day peak was about double that of what Suicide Squad's is now. Our next story is somewhere between a rumor and a leak, and that's that the Ascent devs are working on a Cyberpunk Deus Ex style FPS. If you do not know what Ascent is, it's a little difficult to describe in one sentence, but it's a great isometric action RPG with bullet hell elements. The game was fun, they took a lot of time and care crafting that game world, and I'm excited to see what they can do with the FPS genre. I also think we need more worlds in the Cyberpunk setting, and I'm just really happy to be getting one. Not a lot's known yet, but we're going to pass you on information as it comes. Up next, we have 2 games we've been very excited for. The first being Granblue Fantasy, the traditional mobile game. It jumped from phones to consoles with a fighting game called Versus, but finally released a story-driven RPG with Granblue Fantasy Relink on February 1st. Initial reviews are in, and so far places like Metacritic and IGN are giving it an 8 out of 10, or user scores are hovering around 8.7. I unfortunately missed playing this game as I was reviewing Suicide Squad. Link for that will be in the description if you're interested, but initial impressions are excellent, with the main story taking an estimated 15 to 20 hours to complete. If you're looking for a new RPG to start this month, this is developed by Cygames and Platinum Games, which do great action titles usually. I intend on picking this one up to start off my month. And finally, last but not least, is Square Enix, who just sent out review copies, and the review embargo is lifting on the 22nd of February at 9 AM for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Be warned of spoilers, as the game does not release until the 29th. If you played the first one, I think it's safe to say we can expect the quality to remain high like the original. This is part 2 of 3 that attempts to retell the original game story that came out in 1997. I love the original, I love part 1 of the series, and I'm very much looking forward to playing part 2. The game is approximately 40 to 50 hours for the main story, and 100 plus hours for all the side content. Can't wait to play it. All the marketing material they have released looks great, and they are allowing outlets to review it. Again though, just beware of those spoilers, as you got a week of them being allowed to talk and you can't play. And as a bonus story, Persona 3 Reload just dropped, and initial thoughts are it manages to maintain a lot of the original while making departures in some of the best ways. Persona is part of the Shin Megami Tensei series, which is kind of the original monster collector even before Pokemon, so if you had your fix of Palworld but still want to capture monsters, you can probably find that here, with lots of life sim aspects. This was a great game that helped define the JRPG scene on the PS2, and now brought forward to a new generation. It can be unforgiving at times, and the story does take a bit to get into, but if you like Persona 5, definitely give this one a shot. Thanks for sticking with me, and if you made it this far, remember to subscribe and leave a like to help us continue what we do. And that's our exciting stories for February. Let us know your thoughts on them down below, or what games you may be more excited for this month. I'm Pynn, you're awesome, thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.